So in business, we call it retained earnings. In normal just living, we call it having a savings, a emergency fund. Because life does what? Lifes. And guess what? If you're not ready for it, it will send you on a whirlwind. What's up, everybody? Hold on. Let me turn this radio down before they get me on the FCC for charges of plagiarizing and playing other people's music. But you all know what it is. It's the Cadillac Chronicles Season 1. We'll name this episode later. And so listen, I was thinking about this one concept that I wish I had like 22 years ago. I'll be so much further along, even in my disability living, if I would have had this one concept down pat. And I see it happen so many times, but it's the bridge, the gap. You know, you have gap insurance. It's the bridge between you and life, right? And what do I mean by that? So in business, we call it retained earnings. In normal just living, we call it having a savings, a emergency fund. Because life does what? Lifes. And guess what? If you're not ready for it, it will send you on a whirlwind. But 22 years ago, if I would have had retained earnings, if I would have had savings, if I would have had an emergency fund, then when life happened, I had and would have had the gap that I didn't have to worry about the rest of my life falling apart. So here's what would happen, and we all know it so well, right? We're barely making it, paycheck to paycheck, barely making ends meet. And guess what happens? Well, the water heater goes out, or the stove goes out, or your refrigerator, your washer, your dryer, whatever the case may be, goes out. And now you got to take away from this barely making it paycheck. You guys know what I say about social security or social insecurity, and what I say about a job stands for just over broke. And so we're barely making it, and then life happens, and then you have to pull from this paycheck that's barely making things happen for you to take care of this emergency, when if we would just adapt a emergency fund and have that on hand, then life will be just a bit smoother, right? And so I usually say $1,000 for an emergency fund. If you need to start with $200, start somewhere, because as you know, it will be a lot easier to be able to, it's like a detour. You're still going to get there, but it'll be a lot easier if you could just take the path straight there. So something happens in life that causes you to need money. It's easier if you have it on hand. It's a lot harder if you're struggling already, and then life happens, and then you got to come up with that and still take care of this. So keep that in mind. It's Cadillac Chronicles, retained earnings, savings, or you guys know what it is. Let's change the world. Let's change the world together with an emergency fund.